I, female 38, have recently received a not-so-great medical diagnosis. I'm at peace with it, so I've sat down with my husband and figured out my will. Obviously, he will be receiving most of the estate. He has to take care of himself and our kids. He and I both have decent, if not spectacular, careers, and he likes his work. My oldest brother is a gigantic loser. He's an addict, and my parents have wasted their lives trying to help him. They spend so much of their time and money on him that they have had very little for my sister or me. I don't hold this against them. I love my kids, and I can understand the urge to help them with their problems. But this real issue is that my brother has abandoned my nieces with my parents. I tried to get custody of them, but I'm not a member of their church, and my parents cut me off when I left home to get a college education instead of staying home and helping them as a good daughter should. Their congregation helped them hire a lawyer to keep the girls away from me, but strangely enough, after the girls were out of my reach, they stopped getting any financial support. So in my will, I'm leaving my nieces money not for them to spend however they want. It is only to go to pay for their post-secondary education. If it isn't used for that by the time they're 25, it will be donated to a charity that my parents hate. I sent my parents a copy of the will so they knew what was coming. They're the kind of people who would take out a loan, counting on money from my death to bail them out. They're calling me an idiot for not giving them the money to take care of my nieces. They're complaining because they're going into debt to take care of the girls. I offered again to take custody with my husband. If I can have him for 2 years, I know I can get them on the path away from that church. My parents won't relent and say that they'll challenge my will if I leave it like this. Good luck. My lawyer's confident that I've protected the money. I just heard from my brother. He calls me an idiot for depriving his kids of help and forcing my parents into a crappy position. I asked him when he last sent the money to help with his kids. He yelled obscenities and hung up. Sustenance supports my decision, but many of my family are calling me and asking me to help my parents with no strings attached. Am I the idiot? I'm the idiot. It's your money. Your parents cut you off for going to college. They should expect nothing from you. If your nieces are old enough to understand, I would also tell them about the money and stipulations, because I could see your parents not telling them about it to keep them home near their culty church. Agree. Make sure people remind them later as well. Let's get it so that they're notified around the end of high school. Is handling it any better? You sound like you've done your research, and you've got things covered, Sophie. To disregard this advice, you might want to give them a minimum amount so they won't be able to contest the will. I just heard from my brother. He's calling me an idiot for depriving his kids. Yuck. My response to that would have been pot kettle by ironic of your brother to call you an idiot. What's he contributing toward raising his own children? I'm very proud of what you're doing for your nieces. Unfortunately, your parents are the worst kind of people ever. What kind of parents care only about money and not the fact that their child is sick? Because they want the money for themselves. Not the kids up. Good for you for everything you've done to prepare your nieces for their future and the charitable donation. If they don't use it, it was also good to forewarn them, so they didn't take out a loan. Bless you and your family. Stay strong, my 26 female. And I are having twins, and I'm doing 6 months. We already have a son together who's a toddler. We're both more than excited about this moment. And we had our gender reveal last Saturday. We invited our inner circle of family and friends. We did the cliché popper that lets out confetti, and each of us had one which represented the gender of each twin. When we popped the confetti, we found out that both twins will be girls. I was very excited, because I always envisioned myself being a mother of girls, and knowing that I would have even more than one made me feel amazing. However, when my husband realized the genders, he seemed visibly disappointed and bummed, and apparently our guests noticed as well. My husband really wanted at least one of them to be a boy. He even started picking out toys and names. He acted like this for a few minutes. Finally, even his friends had to comfort him in front of everyone and tell him that he should just be grateful. I honestly got secondhand embarrassed that my husband needed to be comforted in everyone, because we would have healthy girls after that. He tried to cheer up. But you could still tell he was still very upset. I was upset at him but brushed it off until the party was over. After it was done, I confronted him about why he did that. I told him he should just be grateful, and that he already had a son. I told him how embarrassing it was that everyone we knew had to see him act like a child just because of the gender of his children were girls. We started going at it and are still acting kind of sour toward each other. I obviously love him, and I want to diffuse the tension. But I need to know if I'm the idiot. Not the idiot. Geez, was he born a few centuries ago? Why bother having a gender reveal if you're disappointed by the answer? Gender disappointment is supposed to last about 10 seconds, and then you act like an adult and appreciate the new lives coming into your family, especially since he already has a son. It's not like some TikTok videos where they have 4 little girls with them and then it pops pink again. Well, I find baby gender parties weird and sort of creepy to begin with. But even more frustrating is that your husband seems to be under the impression that his children's biology will determine the relationship he'll have with them, the toys they will enjoy, etc. He's shoving your kids into a box before they're even born, and that's the bit he needs to get over. However, if you knew both of you had a strong preference, having a public gender reveal was a bad idea. Instead, learn from this and have all other emotionally fraught reveals in private so emotions can be processed. For God's sake, everyone's an idiot here. I love to play seamstress as a hobby. I also love to shop at thrift shops. My best friend has this certain tartan pattern that she absolutely loves, and I found a near-perfect replica of it at a thrift store. I was so excited, and to me it didn't matter what size it was. I can tailor it to fit my friend. I'm not trying to be insulting, but I've never seen a dress this size before, and I had to do some serious modifications to be honest, the dress was more for fabric than a particular design. I gave it to my friend as an early Christmas present, and she absolutely loved it. It made me happy that it made her so happy. I also left her the scraps and leftovers with the instructions that if she ever saw another piece of clothing that I could use it for, please let me know. I guess her sister went digging through the scraps and found the original dress size on the tag. I've known both she and her sister since we were all kids, and although I'm best friends with the younger sister, I've never quite seen eye to eye with the older sister. Please keep in mind that while reading the text she sent me, it's cut and paste as I got it. We've been best friends since we were kids, and you know how hard it is for me to find clothes. What you did with that dress is a horrible thing to do to me and to other plus-sized women who struggle to find pretty dresses in good condition that we can wear. He found one of them and ripped it to shreds to give it to her when she can buy her garbage at Forever 21 whenever she wants. I'd kill for that dress. It would have changed my holidays to have a good go-to in that pattern that I could have worn repeatedly. And now I have to stress all over again this year, me and all other plus-sized women who would have loved that dress. Why not just give it to me? What's wrong with you? I had no idea this was even a thing. I was trying to do a nice thing for my friend, but her sister didn't even enter my brain until I got that text. My friend says I have nothing to worry about, but the text really bothers me. I'm trying to understand why. Was I the idiot? Not the idiot. As a plus-sized baddie myself, I have no problem finding clothes. There was a time when anything over a size 10 was only muumuus and sweatshirts. But there are literally several companies geared towards us curvier women. Your friend's sister is lashing out because of her own insecurities. They'll ignore her. As your friend said, you did nothing wrong. There's nothing inherently wrong with an individual buying a large size garment cheaply at a thrift store as materials for a smaller size garment project. The problem occurs when a lot of people decide to do that and cause a considerable impact on an already extremely limited, yet essential resource for a specific group of people. You are not the idiot, but neither is your friend's sister for trying to educate you about that etiquette. What you realize is you may not know it. Again, I don't think you meant any harm. Still, you should probably at least know why this is being considered part of thrifting etiquette, because otherwise you may find yourself unknowingly contributing to some essential resource scarcity that can have a really emotionally and materially devastating impact on more people than you think. She's not trying to educate Ella. She's berating up because she didn't get the dress. And also she snooped around to discover the dress was plus-sized. She used her own internalized hurt and insecurity to scold, shame, and guilt-trip someone who owed her nothing. There were a million ways to express valid emotions. Her choice of actions makes her 100 the idiot, in my opinion. And my 24-year-old female sister, 30, is getting married. She and her fiancé are going all out. No expenses spared, just like she always said she would. it's going to be an extravagant affair with hundreds of guests, and she's thrilled to be planning it. Our antisocial cousin, 31, male, makes pretty good money as a software engineer, but he has no social awareness and is extremely cheap. If his wife let him, he would sleep on a dirty mattress on the floor with nothing in his house but a TV and a console. That's what he was doing before they met. He thinks dressing presentably and having a decent home is materialistic. My sister and I happily identify as materialistic, but he means it negatively when he says it. Since my sister started planning her wedding and gushing about it to me, and some other people, not him, he always butts in with some smarmy remark about how weddings are stupid, and what kind of stupid woman would spend tens of thousands on a wedding. And he brags about how he married his wife last year in their backyard, and her ring was $200 from a strip mall, and she was ecstatic. Today, my sister was gushing to me, and my mom and some female cousins about her bachelorette party. My cousin came in and interrupted to brag that his wife never had a bachelorette party and would never want one because they're a waste of money, and that she's so much more practical and less materialistic than most women. I decided to let him know how his wife really feels since she complains to us all the time about him and his cheap habits. I told him about what actually happened on their wedding day. Just hours before the ceremony, when my sister and I and our cousins were helping his bride get ready at their house, she went into the backyard and saw their cheap checkered white and red plastic barbecue tables and burst into tears. She was sobbing about how deeply ashamed she felt that her family and friends from college were going to see their cheapskate $700 wedding and see her walk through her own backyard in a $90 store dressed like a middle schooler at prom. She said she thought her wedding would be special, and if she knew it would be this way, she would have eloped rather than feel humiliated in front of everyone she knew. They had to redo her makeup after she cried, so she's just as materialistic as normal people are. Why did he think she told people not to take pictures on their wedding day? He was livid, ranting that he spent $700 giving her a nice wedding, and he wouldn't waste his money on something so stupid. So how dare I say that about his now wife? He said no one cares about weddings and materialistic parties. He's like a child with no concept of money or taste. It's a IT church goal. I informed him that the average cost of a wedding is $34,000. Humiliated his wife, and their wedding was the type catty people would gossip about for years. He was so mad he drove home through the snow. Everyone's the idiot here. You throw your wife's cousin under the bus just to twist the knife and punish your cousins. And you're the kind of catty person still gossiping about his wedding later. Your cousin needs to butt out and quit griping about business that isn't his. You both sound awful. You're an idiot for betraying his wife's trust and sending him home to scream at her. You're also an idiot because you're bragging about being materialistic is insufferable. If his happily identifying as materialistic isn't something to be proud of. You say you prefer form over substance and come off as vapid and shallow. Everyone in your story is an idiot. Disagree. Pup's not the idiot. If he hadn't constantly been bringing up the comparison and trying to make others feel bad for something they're excited about, then this wouldn't have happened. He shouldn't dish it out if he can't take it. I feel sorry for his wife that his cheapness ruined her first wedding experience. That had me spit my coffee out. I'm as cheap as Alp's cousin, and I married a person who is fairly materialistic. He compromised on the wedding by eloping for me and having a ceremony and party with friends and family for them. I would never expect or ask my partner to compromise more than I'm willing to do, especially about our wedding. My parents were married and had me. Then my mom cheated on my dad while I was still a baby and got pregnant with another man's child. My dad filed for divorce and established through the courts that he was not my half-sister's father and fought not to have parental responsibility for her. However, my dad did get shared custody of me and didn't have to pay child support because of shared custody. Besides, my half-sister's biological father was unknown, and while Mom did try to find him, she was unsuccessful. My mom went on to have 4 more kids with 4 different guys. My dad continued to take care of me, but never took them on. When Dad knew Mom was struggling, he would make sure I was taken care of at our house, since CPS and the courts didn't believe things were bad enough for me to live with him primarily, so I was always better taken care of than my siblings. My half-siblings all hate my dad, and I believe a large part of that is due to Mom telling them stuff through the years. When I was about 13, Mom tried to poison me against Dad by telling me how Dad let them suffer, how he fought to reject my half-sister, and how he was often mean to her about them when she would talk to him. But it didn't change how I felt about my dad. When I was 16, I decided to live with him. I just turned 20, and my half-sister is 18. She came after me to argue and to have it out over my dad. She accused me of being an idiot for not being mad at Dad. She then went on to tell me a story about our mom struggling to afford diapers, and how Dad made sure to send diapers that were just in my size instead of money, so Mom could buy them for both of us, and how he even saw her out with us once and bought stuff that could just be used on me when she was right there. I told her I didn't see what my dad did as wrong because he was never her dad. She said he could have been, but he rejected her in court. I told her again that to me, Dad did nothing wrong. She called me an idiot, said as her older brother, I should be furious that he would be okay with her and the rest of our siblings going hungry, not having the right care, and that he could have stepped up but chose not to, which should make me hate him. She said the fact that I could look her in the eye and say he did nothing wrong made me just as bad as him. Am I the idiot? Absolutely not the idiot. Their anger is directed at your dad because they saw him providing for you. He's not obligated to spend a dime on your half-siblings. Where are their dads? That's where their anger needs to be directed. No. Biological dads are skipping in the wind because a woman had 6 children and never figured out how to use any form of birth control or self-restraint. Restraint, that same woman has spent all those kids' lives blaming anyone else for her poor economic status and life choices. It's all those kids now know. Mom is the true villain in this situation on so many levels. Any anger should be directed toward her. Unfortunately, your sister has been poisoned against your dad by your mom. Your half-siblings aren't his children. Your resistance to your mother's attempts to alienate you from your father is a strength you should hold on to. I don't blame your siblings for clinging to your mother's fantasy because children need such denial of reality to survive, and all they have is your mother.